EU has a mandate to start new negotiation process with Armenia. What do you think? Are there any guarantees that Armenia will sign in the end of these negotiations, the new document?
I think realistically we could say, looking back at the 2013 association agreement, where it was supposed to be initialed and at the last minute Armenia didn't. This is a different context where we see a new degree of political will in Brussels and Yerevan. Most importantly, the Russian government has already made it clear that the new draft legal framework between the Armenia and EU in no way threatens or contradicts Armenia's position within the Eurasian Economic Union. So yes, I'm fairly hopeful, but realistically so, that the negotiations, which start next month in December, would most likely conclude in a signing next year. But this is also a test as much for the Armenian government to fulfill expectations this second time around.
If you remember, Putin was planning to build political project by Eurasian Economic Union. But in the end, there were many problems and they have changed the name of the project. If we take into consideration these ambitions, can we have political relations with the European Union and make reforms if Putin has other ambitions?
I would say yes, because if we look at the transformation of the Eurasian Economic Union, what's most important is without Ukraine, it's a much less attractive, much less effective organization, much less political for Putin. What this also means is Armenia is much more free to deepen political association with the European Union and even in some economic matters and areas outside of the Eurasian Economic Union. So in many ways, this is a natural position. In other words, the European Union is the largest single investor in Armenia, even more than Russia. It's the largest aid donor to the Armenian government. In many ways, this is a natural situation. It was Armenia's decision to sacrifice the association agreement and to join the Eurasian Union, which was an unnatural move. So this, in effect, is correcting or at least limiting the damage from the earlier decision.
And to your mind, after signing the document which we will negotiate, how will look the cooperation between Armenia and EU after this stage?
To be honest, it's too soon to say because we haven't seen the document. But it is fair to say that it will be smaller than an association agreement without the economic efforts, but perhaps even greater attention to the weakest areas. Anti-corruption, a lack of institutional governance. But what's most interesting is the timing. Constitutional reform process, the potential change of government in Armenia to a parliamentary system may actually make this association agreement even more important and more effective.
How will look Eastern Partnership after Ukrainian crisis?
Well, to be honest, the Eastern Partnership, as we know, unfortunately failed overall. It's split into two different groups of countries. Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Belarus without an association agreement, Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia, which signed. What's interesting now, though, this resurrection, this attempt to renew and regain EU confidence and a new relationship between Armenia and the EU helps to actually save the Eastern Partnership.